All right. So good evening, everyone. And some of you have joined me from a different time zone. Very good morning to all of you and a very warm welcome to each one of you. And today we're going to start this training session on a theory chapter, which is named as Sensory Education in Montessori. Some of the textbooks, it is mentioned as chapter 6. Some of the textbooks, it's mentioned as chapter 7. Please note, it is chapter 6, Sensory Education in Montessori. Okay. Now, this theory chapter is also linked with the materials whenever you are working with the sensorial material. As you learn the foundations of why the sensory education is used in our Montessori classes, you would be able to learn a little beyond. So when you work on your practical classes, you would be able to get an opportunity to work with every material that we discuss in today's session hands-on. Okay. So you would be able to help your children to work on the 9 senses and the sensorial activities. This is going to be their gateway to understand and experience this world in the simple Montessori materials. Okay. So today's session, I just wanted to begin with an inspiring thought of Dr. Maria Montessori. She said, the senses, being the explorers of the world, open the way of knowledge or way to knowledge. I would like to repeat once again. Dr. Montessori said, the senses, being the explorers of the world, open the way to knowledge. How beautifully said, right? Only once we are able to experience the world through our senses, we are giving a gateway to open we are giving our way to explore the knowledge. All right. So let's quickly dive into our today's exercise. This is chapter 6. If you have your textbooks with you, it's page number 200 something. Okay. So 201, 202, 3, 4. And some of the textbooks, it's different pages. So turn to chapter 6, that's sensory education. Okay, so to begin with, we always talk about senses, right? We definitely need our 5 senses. What are our 5 senses? We hear with our ears, we smell with our nose, we taste with our tongue, we touch with our skin, and we see with our eyes. So these are the 5 senses. And every human being would have these 5 senses. When we have our 5 senses, it helps us to interact with more people. It also helps us to interact with the environment that you are there in a very fantastic way, correct? So every sense, how does it work? The connectivity, the way that it is working, it's quite complex. But we are not getting into the science behind of how our senses are working, because if you would like to know more, you can Google yourself, see how each of our senses are working. That's going to be amazing. Okay. So, but in our lessons, what we're going to be work is like, what are the materials in Montessori that we use so that children would be able to interact with the environment in an amazing way, right? So do we have materials for which is age appropriate? Definitely yes. In case if I have to use the materials, can I use it for my preschool students? Definitely yes. Can the materials can be taken further to my elementary schools, right through my college? Definitely yes. Because learning and interacting through senses is a wonderful thing that each one of us can contribute to. Okay. So what are our lessons going to be? So in our lessons, we're going to learn about the materials in which if you introduce those materials to your child, if your child is involving to learn those materials through their senses, we would see how the learning becomes fun. That's the beautiful thing to begin with. Now let's understand a little beyond of how does our senses work. Correct? So first of all, what are our senses? We have to know about that. So we have 5 senses, correct? Sense of smell, sense of hearing, sense of touch, sense of taste, and sense of sight. So we have to definitely have our sense organs to help us to work, right? So our eyes will help us to see, our ears would help us to hear, our tongue is going to help us to taste, our skin is going to help us to touch and feel, and our nose is going to help us to smell. Correct? So these are all the sense organs. When our sense organs are really working very well, our body also works really well. And whatever you see around the world, whatever you experience in this world would start to make sense. Right? So what do we do here? So we have all our senses. What are they? Sense of taste, sense of touch, sense of sight, sense of smell, and sense of sound. And all these senses are connected to the brain. So each sense will try to send a message to the brain. Okay, along with a different pathway in our body called the nerves. So what happens then? So once your brain starts to receive these messages, it starts to think, it starts to decide, okay, what to do. Now say suppose in case if I'm signaling to move my finger, right? My brain receives that message and my brain decides what to do and it starts to move this particular finger. Tell them I'm in a class. Okay, so this is how it actually starts to work. Now, if you go a little beyond and see how does your eyes work? How does your eyes work? Let's get into the first sense. It is called the visual sense or sense of sight. Please note down, it's the visual sense or the sense of sight. So which sense organ is helping us to find out? It is our eyes. And what is an eye? If you see something, it is going to capture that moment. It is going to capture that picture, right? If you're able to see me along with the screen, it is only because of your eyes. So what would you tell to children? To children, you can say, children, our eyes are just like camera or like a camcorder. Whatever you click, whatever you record in that gets stored in your brain. Correct? It is just like moving pictures. You will be able to see so beautifully. Now ask them to close their eyes. Do this as a physical exercise in your classes. When they're closing their eyes, they can't see anything. You can blindfold them. You can ask them to work on any exercises like that. And you can tell children, see, if you don't have eyes, we will not be able to see anything. So that's the reason we got to take care of our eyes. You can give them as a little takeaway over there. And what is the science behind that is like, we have this black circle, right? Right in the middle of our eye. It actually has got a little hole, like which lets the light inside your eye. When you see something, it allows the light to enter into your eye through the black circle. Now, at the back of your eye, you will have something called as receptors. Okay, so one for sending messages, and one is like which is going to divide or it will segregate between your colors. Like if is it a light color, what kind of a color, is it a dim, and what it is. So anything that has got a bright light and colors, it will be formed like cones. That's the reason you will be able to see I'm wearing a yellow color dress. Okay. In case if you see me in the dark, probably I would not be looking so colorful during the night, right? So that is when during the dim lights, your receptors would receive something like rods. So only the rods work in the low light, which is why you can't see the colors when it is dark. So this is a basic science. You don't have to learn about this, but you have to learn. Okay, so you tell children how important it is that we should be able to take care of our eyes. You can give them eye exercises. You can tell them don't strain your eye. You can have a simple class assembly which says like, overindulgence of watching television, of, watching gadgets, how it is affecting all of us, right? So all those becomes easy for us to help our children understand. The second sense that we are going to be working is sense of hearing. We also call that as the auditory sense. And which is a sense organ that is helping me to learn about this? That is my ears. Right? Now, say suppose in case I want everybody to cup your ears this way and try to say your name or say any sentence. When you try to cup your ears in this way, whatever you are speaking, you would be able to hear it even better. Speak a sentence and hear it for yourself, you will be able to hear it better. That's the reason the rabbit's ears are also, even though it is long, it is cupped like this. So they would be able to, be free from the predators and they can quickly run off. They would be able to hear the tiniest sounds. How beautifully the ear shape is also made. Okay, this has got a special shape. Our ears have got a special shape. Why? Because it helps us to identify different sounds that we hear in our day-to-day life. Right? If you're walking in the road, even though you don't want to see a bus behind, just by hearing the sound, you kind of give the path. It is actually helping us and it is helping us to be more safe. And how do you hear that sound? The sound starts to travel along a tiny tunnel. Okay, this gets into your ears and you have a piece of skin. Okay, so this sound, as soon as it enters into the tunnel, it starts to bounce off a tiny piece of something like a skin which is stretched, and that's called your eardrum. So once your sound bounces on the eardrum starts to vibrate. As soon as it starts to vibrate, what happens? Those vibrations travel up to your brain, and it will signal your brain and it will tell you what sound is it. Somebody is shouting, somebody is singing, somebody is honking, right? We would be able to hear all those sounds, and your brain is going to help you discriminate between, is it a loud sound, is it a soft sound, what it is. So eardrum is very, very important. So we need to tell our children, don't put anything into your ears, children. Always put them onto a safety condition. Okay, so don't put anything onto your eye, don't put anything onto your ear, because we might hurt our ears, we might hurt our vision, right? So it's not required for us. So this is basically what happens to the sense of hearing. The third sense, please note down, it's called the sense of touch. Now, sense of touch, just like your eyes, just like your ears, our next sense organ is skin. Correct? So our skin would have a lot of tiny receptors. Now, say, suppose in case if something is hot, and if without knowing, if I go and touch, immediately do you feel the burning sensation? Do you feel the hotness? If I'm actually given an ice cube to hold, I would immediately feel the coldness. If somebody pinches me, I can feel the pain. If somebody comes and tickles me, I can feel the tickling sensation, right? So who is helping you to work on all this kind of feelings that you actually have? These are nothing but the receptors of your skin. It is telling you, is it hot? Is it cold? Is it pricky? Is it painful? Is it tickling? What is it? Correct? And most of the time, our hands, the lips, the bottom of our feet are very, very sensitive to any kind of changes like this. For example, they've given you some example. Now, say, suppose in case if you put your hand near a hot stove, the receptor is going to send you a message, right? It's going to send the message to your brain, and right immediately you would know, I should not be touching this. What will happen if you touch it? You will get hurt. Children at the younger ages, they don't know. If I'm going to touch this, I would definitely get hurt. That's the reason they might touch it, they might get hurt, but the next time they're more cautious, right? What are the receptors of our skin? Do we have 3 layers of our skin? The top layer is called what? Epidermis. Then you have dermis. Then you have hypodermis. These are the layers of our skin. And say, suppose in case if I have to feel the heatness or the coldness, what receptor is going to help me to identify? There's something called as thermoreceptors. Now, the thermoreceptors would help me to feel that hotness or coldness. If you have children who are slightly older age, when you're doing the sensorial lessons in Montessori, you can tell them, what receptors are helping me, children? It is thermoreceptors. Correct? Now, in case if I'm touching something, and if I'm feeling a bit of pain, I do have different other receptors, right? So that is called nociceptor. So nociceptor receptors will tell me, oh, this is causing me pain. I touch this, now I can feel the burning sensation. So it is helping me to work on that. If at all, if there is a pressure, then we have another receptor called as tachynean corpuscle. So this is the receptor which actually helps us to identify. Like that, we have these 4 sensory receptors in our skin, which is going to help you to find out, is it hot? Is it cold? Is it painful? Is it tickling? Or can I feel the pressure? Can I feel the sense of touch, a good touch, a bad touch? What kind of a feeling that you can actually get it? And where are all your feelings? Where are all your emotions stored? It's in your gut, right? So that's the reason you find the tingling sensation in your gut. So your skin would definitely help us to actually work on the sense of touch. The next one, please write down. It's the sense of smell. We also call this as olfactory sense. Olfactory, what you smell. Olfactory, O-L-F-A-C-T-O-R-Y. Sense of smell is called as olfactory sense. Now, I want everybody to close your eyes and imagine you have a yummy chocolate cake in front of you. I've put that into the description. Just remember. Just imagine you have a yummy chocolate cake in front of you. Okay? Is everybody imagining? Now,
Yes.
how could you tell it was a chocolate cake? You did not see it, but how do you know it's a chocolate cake?
Smells.
Smell, right?
Mm.
You don't have it right now. I just asked you to imagine. But in the class, what you actually do is like you actually bring a chocolate cake in front of the child. You ask them to take a big sniff. And the child is going to tell what is it? Is it a cake? Is it a fruit? Is it a drink? Is it some leaf? Is it a flower? They can take a big sniff and tell me what it is. Now, when the teacher is trying to do this exercise, we have to blindfold the child. We don't want them to see what it is. You're able to get me what I'm trying to say? Blindfold it. Why do we blindfold? Because our intention is only to ensure that the child is purely smelling. They're taking a big sniff and they have to tell me what it is. Now, what happens when the child is sniffing? What happened when you sniffed? Everybody sniffed. When you sniffed, what happened? The air started to flow. From where? From outside. It got into your nose. In your nose, you have your tiny hair at the top of the nostrils. You do have, definitely have, right? The hair inside your nose is the one which is going to send message to your brain, and it will tell you what is that smell. Is that the chocolate smell or is it what? But sometimes if you have cold and if your nose is clogged and the hair inside the nose gets clogged up with mucus, that's the reason we can't smell anything. Even though mama makes something yummy also, we are not able to smell it because your nose, the hair in the nose is clogged with the mucus. Right? That's the reason we say, no, I'm feeling very sick. I'm not able to smell anything. I'm not able to taste anything. You're able to get it now. What is the science behind it? Yeah, that's all about how the hair inside the nose or the tiny hair at the top of your nostrils is going to send signals to your brain and it tells you what you need to do that. See, these are beautiful ones. You can actually give a little bit of a science takeaway to your children. What is helping them to smell?
Okay.
So sense organs. So that's the reason we need to definitely keep our sense organs healthy. And some of the sense organs don't work well, we will definitely have problem. Correct? So our sense organs should all be working rightfully. Now take a look at the next one. Taste, right? So what you can ask your children to do is like, everybody try to put your tongue out. Everyone on the gallery mode. We put our tongue out. Yeah, do that. Think I'm a doctor. I'm asking you to put your tongue out. Yes, this is what we do at the first step. Then you can call another classmate of the child. They can ask them to observe the tongue. When they closely observe the tongue, what can the children notice? There are those buds. There are those bumps kind of a thing, right? The tiny bumps on your tongue, right? You can see that red dot or the white dots, tiny little bumps. And you can tell children, those are the ones which is helping you to find out what taste it is. And those bumps are called the taste buds. Easy? So you ask the children to open their tongue out and you can ask them to figure out, can you see the tiny little bumps on the tongue? Those are taste buds. So if you start to divide your tongue into multiple parts like this, the top portion of your tongue is the one which is going to tell you that this is bitter. That's the reason how many of you, when you're eating something, you want to sip something, you don't put completely into your mouth. You only take it from the tip of your tongue. How many of you do that? When you're tasting something, when you spoon it, you only take a little from the tip of the spoon. So that only a tip of the tongue is being touched. So you can feel the sweetness. You can feel whether it is salty, whether it is sour, whether it is spicy, and then only you take it. Right? So our tongue will immediately tell. So bitter is the last, what I could say, the taste that you will be able to experience it. So this is something that we need to help our children to identify. So each part of our tongue can taste different flavors, be it sweet, be it bitter, sour, spice, and salt. So what happens? What's the science? When you eat something, give them different thing. So the taste buds, as soon as they eat, the taste buds are going to send a message. Message to whom? To the brain, correct? Along the nerves. Now your brain receives all that signals and it identifies what are you eating. Just like how your skin, your eyes have receptors, your tongue will also have receptors. And it can tell you, is it hot? Is it dangerous? Say, for example, in case if you're eating fish, your tongue will immediately tell you, it will give you a signal, don't swallow it because there is a bone. As soon as something gets stuck, we don't swallow it, right? See how beautifully God has also made the human beings. Our sense organs are the best ones to keep us safe. It immediately tells it's too hot. We don't gallop. The second sip, we don't gallop if it's hot. Want to take a hot cup of tea or coffee? If it is too hot, we don't sip the next. We wait, right? Until it cools down a little bit. See how beautifully it tells us, it warns us it is dangerous. Don't put everything because we might definitely get hurt. So this is our tongue and this is a tiny little science behind that. Okay, so moving to our next thing. What are the 5 senses we have learned over here? So in this chapter, all this time we have learned only about our 5 senses, right? Everybody, we have learned only about the 5 senses. Now, what do we do now is like we're going to experience the other 4 more senses. So altogether, we would have 9 senses in our Montessori education. What are the 5 senses what we have learned? Visual sense, sense of seeing or sense of sight. Auditory sense, sense of hearing or auditory or sense of hearing. Sense of smell, olfactory sense. Tactile sense is nothing but sense of touch. What is the sense organ? Skin. Gustatory sense is the sense of taste. Tongue helps us to taste. So that's gustatory sense. Visual, auditory, olfactory, gustatory, tactile. These are the 5 senses. From here, Dr. Montessori expanded these 5 senses into 4 more. Okay. Say suppose if it is visual sense. Visual, we see so many things. Correct, everybody? But we see also colors. If I'm seeing all of you, I can also notice what each one dress color is. Shika is wearing pink, Shweta is wearing blue, Anita is wearing sea green, right? I can differentiate between the colors. So I'm looking forward when I'm seeing something which is colorful around me in my environment. So she further classifies the sense of visual or the visual sense into chromic or the color sense, chromatic sense, which is talking about the colors. Please note now, the 6th sense that Dr. Montessori is going to help us to understand is the chromatic, chromic or the color sense. Now say suppose if Purni is writing something on her book and I ask her to give me the book. Okay, the book is really huge. It's a big book. So when I hold it in my hand, I'll be like, Purni, what a big book. How many kgs it is? So when we are holding something, we also experience the weight of any object, correct? So sensorial education is you touch, you feel, you learn something. When you touch it, you feel like holding it. When you hold it, you experience the weight of that object. Anytime you are learning about the weights, it is called the baric sense. Baric sense. Okay. Next, further, when we hold an object, we can also further learn about what is the temperature of it. Say, suppose in case if I'm holding a bottle and the bottle of water was kept in my refrigerator. So it's a nice water. So I can feel it is very cold. Right? So I can experience the temperature of that. So that's thermic sense. Anything that we experience with our temperatures, that's our thermic sense. Towards the end, if you want to stick to one sense, and if you want to give that tactile muscular learning, that's called the stereognostic sense. Okay, stereognostic or the tactile muscular sense. If you'd like to take a screenshot of this, please take it I'll give you 30 seconds. These are the 9 senses your entire chapter is dependent on. We just gave you the overview of what are 5 senses, why senses are important, what is the science behind it, how our sense organs help us to function. Having that, we define Dr. Maria Montessori's 9 senses. Clear to everybody so far? Okay, now let's move to the next purpose. So we have learned about all these 9 senses. Now the next question is, what is the purpose of giving these sensory educational activities in Montessori classroom or to children? Okay, very simple. Very simple. Why we have to give? Because it is important that we give objects so that the child is going to hold them, learn them, smell them, feel them, right? So this is going to help the children to refine their senses. It could be the slightest of the slightest differences also, but still he would start to appreciate objects. This is what is very important. So we need to give objects, not every sensorial materials at the same time, but you have to give them in isolation. What do I mean by giving in isolation? Every material in sensorial exercise is used to define one concept. Now say suppose in case if I'm using cylinder blocks. Why do I give cylinder blocks? To teach only about thickness or about the height. If I give pink tower, it's only for sizes. If it is brown stairs, it's for thickness. If it's for red rods, it's for length. If it's knobless cylinders, same concept like cylinder blocks, it is for thickness. My color tablets to help me identify my colors. Binomial, trinomial cubes to make the cube roots. It's used in algebra, right? So these are materials that I can use them in isolation. So I have to have a specific Montessori material to teach a particular concept. This is what your previous slide talks about. Each exercise that you give it to the child, read the last slide. Each exercise that you specifically give it to the child isolates one sense at a time. Please underline it, circle it, mark it, whatever it is. It means a lot. Every material that you have to teach in isolation, it is going to help the child to learn a sense at one at a time. So it is going to help the child's refinement also using those materials. Okay, now coming to the next part, we have understood the purpose. Now coming down to your Montessori lessons, this is theory, okay? We're not going deep into each material. Since it is theory, in theory, what we learn is like, what are the materials for visual sense? We know visual sense is interpreted by our eyes. So whatever I see, I will be able to perceive. Now, when I'm seeing something, I can talk about colors. As I mentioned, Shweta is wearing a blue color. I can talk about her form. She's very fit. I can talk about something else. Now, say, suppose in case if I'm looking at a book, I can talk about the size of the book, right? So, whatever you see, you should be able to differentiate between the shape of it, the size of it, the form. Is it a solid? Is it a liquid? Is it a gas? Are you able to get me? Whatever you see, you should be able to see the differences. That's your visual sense. Now, everybody take an object. Whatever is right in front of you, please take an object. Have you taken that any object? Yes. Nisha, would you like to describe that object?
Yes, ma'am. It is cylindrical in shape.
Take it high. Take it high.
It is cylindrical in shape.
Okay.
And,
Go on. Go on. Go on, Nisha.
It's a teacup.
It's a teacup.
It's a teacup. It's cylindrical in shape.
Okay.
It has tea.
Then we drink tea in it.
You drink tea in it, okay.
Then
It has many designs.
Okay. Anything else? Can
It
somebody
has-
add? Yeah.
Nothing, ma'am.
Okay. Does somebody wants to add anything onto that cup? Prasanna, you would like to
Yes.
add something?
Yes, ma'am.
Nisha,
It
show
is
the
white
cup.
in color
White in color, okay.
and it has got a design over it.
It's got a design, okay. Show the cup, Nisha.
With one handle.
It's got one handle.
It has a wide mouth.
It has got a wide mouth. Okay. It is made up of ceramic. Okay.
It has a flat bottom.
It has a flat bottom. Wonderful. Okay.
We add some coffee to here, it is a more quantity.
Okay. It can occupy more quantity. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The handle
It is a
shape looks
fragile
like
one.
ear.
It's too fragile. Okay.
Handle shape
It
looks
has
like an
remain
ear.
base.
Ear.
Sangeeta, handle shape, you said something.
Looks like an ear, ma'am. Ear.
Handle shape looks like an ear. Wonderful. Okay. Lena, anything else we observe?
It has remain base.
It has
Remain base, ma'am.
It has a cylinder base. Okay, wonderful. See, Purni said it has a flat base and
Remain base.
somebody is adding into a cylinder base. So I can put it as a flat cylinder base.
Okay.
Lovely. Yeah. Anything else?
We handle the cup means it is weight also.
Wait, yeah,
Can-
you because it is
Yeah,
ceramic,
weight.
maybe it could be heavy. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It could be heavy. Yeah.
Handle helps you to hold it without burning your hand.
Handle helps it. Yeah, see how beautiful. So you're being safe there and you know it.
It is not transparent material.
Okay, it is not transparent, it is opaque. Okay. You can't see what's there.
What's inside it?
Okay. Anything else? I'm noting up all your points.
It's a heavy or weight, less weight
It is a
material.
kitchen item.
It's a kitchen utensil. Yes, you will be able to work on that. Yeah.
You can have both solid and liquid on that.
Okay, so you can have both solid and the liquid. See, now can you able to relate it to what we were talking about? So visual sense is actually helping us. Thank you, Nisha. So your visual sense is actually helping you to define between what you're seeing. So this is what we were actually seeing, right? So we saw about how our sensorial education or how our sense of sight was actually helping us to define these important things. For example, see, it is helping me to perceive. Can you read that? It is helping me to perceive differences in the size, in the form, in the color, the shape, all of that. So you went beyond and you told me about many other things. You talked about material composition. You said, ma'am, this is actually made up of ceramic. The moment that you say ceramic, can it hold high temperatures? Definitely, yes, it can hold high temperatures. Why can it hold high temperatures? Because it is made of what? Clay. And clay is usually fired in what? High temperature. So it can resist that. And Nisha, did you feel the surface when you touched? Could you feel it?
Yes,
It had
ma'am.
a smooth finish, right? It had a smooth
It
finish.
has a smooth finish.
So here we can also look when you're trying to touch it. You can also feel the smooth finish. And I could also see the glare on it. When she was showing me on the camera, I could see it was shining also. So I can say it was coated with some glaze on it. Only because of that, I could actually get the smooth finish. Correct? Now, what
Yes,
if
ma'am.
I would have poured the coffee or the tea in a paper cup? What would have happened? The paper cup wouldn't have taken so much of heat. It couldn't retain so much of heat. That's the reason we never use paper cups for hot beverages. We prefer, it could be glass or we can prefer ceramic. Even we don't use plastics. It's ideal for hot drinks. That was a good thing. Now see, suppose in case if I'm taking my coffee in the paper cup, does it aesthetically look good? No.
Really get wet and soaked one.
What? It gets soaked, it gets wet and it gets soaked. Aesthetically also, Niveta, it doesn't look good. If you're having your
Yes.
coffee, you look so classy, correct? Maybe you can go with the kind of finish that you like, the design or whatever it could be. It could be matte, glossy, textured. See here, you're trying to add so much of vocabulary. Children, it's a glossy texture. It's a matte cup. Look at it, it's got some kind of a texture. Somebody also said it has so many designs. It has got a print on it. You can talk about that. So here in our visual sense, you not only tell this is a cup, rather you will tell them what is the color of it, what is the design of it, what is the finish of it. You can also talk about the pattern. You can talk about the print. You can also talk about, is it hand painted or is it machine printed? See, there are so many things that you can actually have. Now, what about the wear and tear? It doesn't wear and tear. Now, what if suddenly you keep it outside? And under sudden temperature changes also, your ceramic glass will not melt, right? It will not melt. So you can also talk about the durability of it if you are keeping it very safe. And is it microwave friendly? Check on that. Is it a dishwasher friendly? Check on that. Right? Because since it is a delicate one, most of the ceramic mugs are really safe. You can tell children, it is safe for